The council chamber buzzed with activity, its vast, domed interior filled with alien delegates from across the galaxy. Beings of all shapes and sizes, some towering and imposing, others small but exuding intellect, sat in their designated seats around the grand circular table. In the center, a holographic display projected a three-dimensional image of Earth, blue, vibrant, and seemingly insignificant against the backdrop of space. The Zoltorian Elder, a tall and gaunt figure with shimmering silver skin and elongated fingers, raised his hand for silence. The murmurs ceased instantly. His voice carried authority that few dared to question. The conquest of Earth, he began, his tone dripping with disdain, was meant to be a mere formality, a demonstration of our empire's might to a primitive, fractured species. Yet, reports from our fleet indicate complications. The word hung in the air like an unwelcome guest. Around the table, delegates exchanged uneasy glances. For all their technological superiority, the Galactic Empire was unaccustomed to hearing that word attached to their campaigns. A smaller alien, one with translucent skin that pulsed faintly as it spoke, cleared its throat. Our forces report resistance. Coordinated resistance. The humans, they are not behaving as anticipated. The Elder scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. Resistance from primitives is not uncommon. Their efforts are nothing more than the death throes of an inferior species. But, interjected another, a reptilian being with sharp, gleaming eyes, their resistance has been effective. Supply routes have been compromised. Our ground forces have sustained heavier casualties than expected. They are utilizing tactics we've not encountered before. The Elder narrowed his eyes, his confidence momentarily shaken. Explain. The humans, the reptilian continued, are unpredictable. They fight without regard for conventional strategies, adapting faster than any species we have encountered. They weaponize their environment, turning it against us. They exploit our technology, learning from it in ways that defy their supposed limitations. A murmur rippled through the room, a sound of disbelief and growing unease. The Zoltorian Elder raised his hand again, and silence returned. These are isolated incidents, he said firmly. Their resistance is futile. The might of the Empire is unchallenged, and this, Earth, is but a minor inconvenience. A new voice, calm but laced with urgency, broke the Elder's declaration. I have reviewed the reports from the front lines, said a being with an insectoid appearance, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the hologram of Earth. This is no minor inconvenience. The humans are systematically dismantling our operations. Every move we make, they counter with precision. They are not fighting to survive. They are fighting to win. The Elder's jaw tightened. Are you suggesting that the Empire cannot crush a single planet of primitives? I am suggesting, the insectoid replied, that we have underestimated them. The room fell into an uneasy silence. For the first time, doubt crept into the collective consciousness of the council. The humans, whom they had deemed weak and insignificant, were proving to be anything but. A communication officer entered the chamber, interrupting the tense atmosphere. Elder, the officer said, bowing slightly, a message from the front. The humans have requested to send a representative to speak on their behalf. The Elder's lip curled in disdain. They wish to negotiate their surrender? The officer hesitated. Their message was unclear. But they request an audience with the council. The delegates erupted into a cacophony of opinions. Some argued against granting the humans any platform, while others, driven by curiosity or caution, suggested hearing them out. Finally, the Elder raised his voice above the noise. Silence. He turned to the officer. Grant their request. Let them send their representative. We will show them the futility of defying the Galactic Empire. The officer bowed and exited, leaving the council to stew in their thoughts. The Elder turned back to the delegates, his expression a mix of irritation and resolve. Let us entertain this charade. Perhaps it will serve as a lesson to any others who dare to oppose us. Around the table, the delegates nodded, though unease lingered in their eyes. The hologram of Earth continued to rotate slowly, its beauty masking the chaos unfolding on its surface. The Zoltorian elder reclined in his chair, confident that this would be resolved swiftly. After all, what could a single representative of a defeated species possibly say to shake the unyielding might of the Galactic Empire? The council chamber was silent as the human representative entered. The figure was unassuming at first glance, clad in a plain, dark suit with no insignias or adornments. No ornate armor, no ceremonial robes, just a calm, measured presence. Yet, the air seemed heavier as they walked to the center of the room. The sound of their footsteps echoed, each step deliberate and controlled. The Zoltorian elder studied the human with a mix of disdain and curiosity. The creature looked ordinary, almost fragile, in comparison to the towering reptilians, the shimmering insectoids, and the countless other imposing figures present. Yet, something about their demeanor unsettled him. "You are the representative of Earth?" the elder asked, his voice carrying its usual tone of superiority. The human nodded, their expression unreadable. "I am." The elder smirked. "Have you come to plead for mercy on behalf of your kind?" The human's lips curled slightly, not into a smile, but something colder. "I've come to deliver a message." The delegates leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. The human's calm, almost indifferent tone was unnerving. This was not the desperate plea of a defeated people. The elder raised an eyebrow. "A message? From whom?" "From Earth," the human replied simply. The room tensed. The answer was vague yet deliberate. The elder frowned, irritated by the lack of deference. "Then deliver your message, human. Speak, and let us end this farce." The human's gaze swept across the room, lingering briefly on each delegate. "You attacked our home," they began, their voice steady, "and in doing so, you made the gravest mistake of your existence. You believed us to be weak, divided, insignificant. But you misunderstood us." The council exchanged uneasy glances. There was no fear in the human's tone, no anger, only cold certainty. "You assumed that we would crumble, that we would submit," the human continued. "But humanity has faced extinction before. We have survived plagues, wars, catastrophes of our own making. Every time, we adapted. Every time, we grew stronger." The elder's frown deepened. "What are you implying, human? That you're a match for the Galactic Empire?" The human tilted their head slightly, as though considering the question. "I'm implying that you've awakened something you cannot control. You see, humans are at their most dangerous when they have nothing left to lose. You didn't conquer Earth. You provoked it." A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. The human's words carried an edge that no one had expected. "You underestimated our resilience," the human said, their tone sharper now. "You thought you were taking a planet, but you were wrong. Earth isn't just a place. It's an idea, a bond, a shared determination that you can't quantify or destroy. When you attacked, you didn't break us. You united us." The insectoid delegate clicked its mandibles nervously. "Empty bravado," it muttered, though its voice lacked conviction. The human's gaze shifted to the insectoid, piercing and unyielding. "Bravado? No. Consider this a courtesy. A warning. The war you started is one you cannot win." The elder leaned forward, his voice tinged with irritation. "Enough of this posturing. Do you expect us to believe that your primitive species could stand against the might of the Empire? Your resistance is a minor inconvenience, nothing more." For the first time, the humans smiled, though it didn't reach their eyes. "Is that what you tell yourselves? That we're just a nuisance? Tell me, Elder, how many supply lines have been disrupted? How many fleets have failed to report back? How many systems are now questioning your authority because of the whispers they've heard about Earth's?" The Elder's composure faltered for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. The human had seen it, and so had the rest of the council. "You see," the human said, their voice calm but cutting, "this isn't just about Earth. Your arrogance has consequences. You thought yourselves invincible, untouchable. But every empire falls. And when they write about yours, they'll start with the moment you decided to attack us." The silence that followed was heavy, oppressive. No one dared speak. The human turned to leave, pausing only briefly. "Your move, Council." Choose wisely. They walked out of the chamber without another word, leaving the delegates to grapple with the weight of what had just been said. The chamber remained silent long after the human had left. The delegates sat in uneasy contemplation, their confidence shaken. Finally, the Zoltorian elder broke the silence, his voice harder now, though tinged with an edge of uncertainty. "Bluster," he declared, as if trying to convince himself. "They are bluffing." Primitive species often resort to bravado when faced with inevitable defeat, but the insectoid delegate, its multifaceted eyes glinting with unease, spoke up. "Bluffing or not, their claims are not without merit. Reports of disruptions across our supply lines cannot be ignored. The humans have leveraged a degree of strategy that far exceeds their known capabilities." A reptilian delegate hissed, its sharp teeth bared in frustration. "Strategy? They are scavengers. They twist and exploit our technology like parasites. That is not strength. It is desperation." "Desperation can be a strength," the insectoid countered. "They adapt quickly, faster than any species we have encountered. And they are unrelenting." The elder slammed a hand on the table, the sound reverberating through the chamber. "Enough. The Galactic Empire will not cower before a backward species. If they believe they can challenge us, they will soon learn the price of defiance." Before anyone could respond, an alert chimed from the central console. The hologram of Earth flickered and was replaced with a transmission. A panicked voice, belonging to one of the Empire's fleet commanders, filled the room. "Council, this is Admiral Krev of the Fourth Fleet. We are under attack." "Human forces have." The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by static. The elder's expression darkened, his earlier confidence eroding further. "What is the status of the Fourth Fleet?" he demanded. A communications officer stepped forward, their voice shaky. The fleet has been neutralized. Reports indicate coordinated strikes on multiple vessels. The humans used unconventional methods." "Explain," the elder barked. The officer hesitated. "They utilized a combination of guerrilla tactics and technology we have not encountered before. It appears they have reverse-engineered some of our own systems. They turned our weapons against us." The chamber erupted into chaos, delegates shouting over one another. Accusations flew, blame shifting from one faction to another. The insectoid delegate finally raised its voice above the fray. "This is precisely what the human warned us about. They are not fighting on our terms. They are fighting on theirs. And we are unprepared for it." The elder glared at the insectoid. "You would have us believe that these primitives are a legitimate threat to the Empire? Absurd." "Is it?" the insectoid shot back. "How many fleets must fall before we acknowledge the truth? They are not fighting as a conquered people. They are fighting as a united one. And that unity makes them dangerous." Another transmission interrupted the heated exchange. This time, it was from one of the Empire's outposts. The hologram showed a shaken officer, their uniform torn, their face bruised. "Council, this is Commander Vesh of Outpost Delta. We are under siege. Human forces have infiltrated our defenses. They've sabotaged our power grids and disabled our communication systems. The image flickered, then cut to black. The room fell silent once more. The elder's hands clenched into fists. His confidence had been replaced by a simmering rage, though the fear beneath it was unmistakable. "This cannot continue," he growled. "Deploy reinforcements to every affected sector. Double the guard on all critical infrastructure. We will crush this rebellion before it spreads further." But the insectoid delegate shook its head. "You still don't understand, do you? This isn't a rebellion. This is a reckoning. And the longer we underestimate them, the closer we come to our own destruction." The elder ignored the warning, his pride blinding him to the reality unfolding around him. But as the council chamber descended into chaos once more, it became clear that the Galactic Empire was no longer the unassailable force it had once believed itself to be. The humans had turned the tide, and with every passing moment, their grip on the galaxy tightened. The council reconvened under an air of palpable tension. The chamber, once a symbol of unchallenged authority, now seemed smaller, its delegates quieter and more subdued. Reports of human incursions had spread like wildfire, each more alarming than the last. The elder sat at the head of the table, his composure cracking under the weight of failure. A delegate from the Liveran system, a species known for its cold logic and precision, broke the silence. Our analysts have reviewed the patterns of human activity. Their strikes are not random. They are deliberate, coordinated, and aimed at destabilizing the core of our operations. They are dismantling the empire piece by piece. The elder's eyes narrowed. And what do you propose? Surrender? The Liveran met his gaze, without flinching.
No.
But continuing to treat this as a conventional conflict will only hasten our defeat. The humans are exploiting our rigidity. They have no rules of engagement, no respect for the conventions we've relied upon for millennia. If we are to counter them, we must adapt. Adapt. The elder scoffed. We are the Galactic Empire. We do not adapt to the whims of lesser species. And that arrogance, the insectoid delegate interjected sharply, is precisely why we are losing. The room fell silent, the insectoid's words cutting through the elder's bluster. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. For all his posturing, the elder had no answers. A communication officer entered abruptly, their expression grim. Council, another report has come in. Human forces have targeted the orbital shipyards over Trockert 7. They've destroyed half of our fleet under construction and have captured key engineers. They left behind a single transmission. The officer activated the console, and the hologram flickered to life. It was the human representative from before, their calm demeanor unchanged. This is not a war you can win, the human said, their voice steady and unyielding. You see yourselves as rulers of the galaxy, but in your arrogance, you've forgotten how to fight. You've forgotten what it means to struggle, to innovate, to endure. We haven't. You cannot defeat us because we refuse to be defeated. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in heavy silence. The elder rose from his seat, his anger barely contained. Enough of this. Mobilize every fleet, every resource. We will not be mocked by these vermin. The reptilian delegate hissed in frustration. And where will you send them? Every time we move, the humans anticipate our actions. They're always one step ahead. We're fighting an enemy that has turned our strength into their advantage. The insectoid delegate leaned forward, its voice calm but resolute. This is no longer a matter of pride, Elder. If we continue on this path, the Empire will fall. The humans have shown us what they are capable of. It is time we acknowledge that this war cannot be won through brute force. The Elder's fists clenched, but he said nothing. The weight of the Council's eyes was on him, and for the first time, he seemed uncertain. A Liveran strategist spoke up, their tone measured. Perhaps it is time to negotiate. Not out of weakness, but survival. If we continue to fight, we risk total collapse. But if we find a way to coexist, we may yet salvage what remains of the Empire. The Elder's expression darkened, but he didn't immediately dismiss the suggestion. The chamber buzzed with quiet murmurs as the delegates debated the unthinkable. The Galactic Empire, brought to its knees by a species they had deemed insignificant, now faced a choice that would determine its future. Finally, the Elder spoke, his voice heavy with reluctant acknowledgement. Send the message. Request another audience with a human representative. The room fell silent again, the implications of his words sinking in. The Galactic Empire, once unyielding and unchallenged, now stood at a crossroads. And as the delegates left the chamber, they could not shake the realization that the humans had done more than resist. They had redefined the very nature of power.